Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, I don't mean to sound like arrogant or I told you so, but I told you so. I said the things that were happening within the lumber industry was eventually going to find its way throughout the rest of the economy. And a lot of people called me crazy. When they saw lumber shooting up to 1700 per thousand, they were calling out hyperinflation due to the Federal Reserve money printer go burr. And I said, no, that is not the case. That is not what's happening with lumber. You're going to find lumber prices come back down to a normal price at some point. And although it's probably going to be an elevated normal price, it is going to be normal-ish. And it's going to take some time. It's going to be oversupply to undersupply to oversupply to undersupply until we find that equilibrium. And that's exactly the case that has taken place in lumber. Now, prior to the pandemic, this is how I'm able to call this stuff out, is because I have my fingers on the pulse of the lumber industry. And I saw it happening back through 2019 that there was an incredible amount of lumber distributors, wholesalers, manufacturers, retailers, everybody was diminishing their inventory. It was dropping dramatically. And now, if you could just go back and look at my channel throughout the 2019, you would see reports of mill curtailments, shutdowns, inventory depletions. In fact, I think it was November of 2019, I had put a video out talking about the billions of square feet of OSB manufacturing that was coming off the market. Now, is it any wonder why we have plywood at all-time highs? Even today, I'm selling plywood at $40 a sheet, which would normally sell for around $20 a sheet. But it was due to an inventory depletion. It wasn't due to money printer go burr like everybody wanted to say. And so I even asked people, it was just like, what do you plan on using for an excuse when the prices come back down? Especially if you're looking at lumber and using lumber for an excuse for the hyperinflation scenario coming from the Fed. And I don't think anybody was calling out lumber like I was. So when we go and look at what's happening right now throughout the rest of the economy with all the flood of goods that are coming in from China's manufacturing, the over manufacturing that had taken place that is now flooding into the United States, what do we see? Retailers are loaded. Rail lines are loaded with stuff. There is like inventory busting at the seams from just about every direction that you can look at, and prices are beginning to fall. People are telling me that they're finding TVs for 50% off. People are trying to return TVs and being told, keep your TV and here's your money. You can just keep the money in the TV. Tell me, how profitable is that? Right? We are going to see a huge deflationary scenario coming from this. And at the same time, there's going to be inventory depletions due to these low prices and the moving of inventory out of these retail centers. And right now, we don't have China manufacturing. Think about what's going to happen here. Think about the bullwhip effect and the oversupply, undersupply, and the situation that is happening here. We are going to experience something unlike anybody had ever anticipated. We are going to find that these inventory levels are going to be so extreme that things will practically be given away. At the same time, this inventory depletion will take place. That new manufacturing coming from China isn't filling in the supply chain, and we are going to find the real shortages taking place then. All this stuff is going to go away, and then there's not going to be a whole lot of stuff coming in to replace it. So if you really want to know where the real shortages are going to come, just wait till this flood of inventory that's happening right now dissipates and distributes throughout the economy. That's when you should really panic, because that's where there's going to be nothing available to buy. Not just like, being allocated against, because that's what really drove up the inventory and the overwhelming consumer demand. I mean, if you go back and look at my videos, I said this overwhelming consumer demand is false. It doesn't exist. I knew it then, and it's proving itself to be the case now. So take a look at what's going on. Like, just take the timelines into imagination, okay? And imagine what is happening at these stores. There was a severing of the supply chain, okay? Don't go to work. Don't manufacture. Don't distribute. Don't drive, right? Sit at home. You're sitting at home and you're bored. Boom, stimulus check gets handed to you. What are you going to do? Let's get online and let's start ordering stuff. So an incredible amount of stuff gets ordered all at the same time. All these things start getting from the distributors, start flooding out to these people. Next thing you know, retailers and manufacturers have a hard time trying to acquire the things that they need in order to build the products that they need, or just to sell to their customers. So here you are, you're a distributor, you're a manufacturer, you're having a hard time acquiring the things that you need in order to do business. And when you go to place an order for, say, something like 10 items, and they say to you, well, there's an allocation going on because so many people are ordering things at the same time, you're not going to get 10, you're going to get 3. But you really wanted 10. So you order 30 so you can get your 10. Well, next thing you know, the distribution networks, they don't understand what's happening through this, okay? So you got the wholesalers, the distributors, the manufacturers, they're all looking at these flood of orders coming in, but they don't realize that the people who are buying, they're doing like a panic buy. They're over ordering so that they are not, so their allocations will actually bring to them what they are truly wanting and not necessarily what they are ordering, right? You want 10, so you order 30. I mean, I experienced this exact thing here at the lumberyard. We had a particular trim that is very popular. It's 1 inch thick, 5/4 by 4 cedar trim. There's nothing special about this stuff. But you order 500 feet, and they're like, oh, sorry, everybody's kind of in the buying of this stuff, and we really don't have enough to distribute to everybody. So in order to make sure that everybody has a little bit to sell, we're not going to send you 500. We're only going to send you like 200. Well, it was just like, well, we want 500. If we have 200, we're going to run out. So let's order 1,000 feet, and maybe we might get the 500, or get better than 200. So 1,000 feet gets ordered, and if all the retailers do this, what the manufacturers and wholesalers and distributors are going to see is an overwhelming consumer demand. But it was false. It doesn't exist. Okay? So now, here we got this overwhelming consumer demand coming in, or the fulfilling of this overwhelming consumer demand is now coming in, and the consumer isn't there to do it. And they're like, well, what happened to all this overwhelming consumer demand? It was false. It wasn't real. It was completely imaginary. So now the real shortages are going to start kicking in, because what's going to happen is that as the people go and find this flood of goods and stuff coming from China is now hitting their retailers, and there's just really not enough room for all this stuff because it was panic buying really that was taking place, is the manufacturers aren't getting orders. So now back in China, they're like, manufacturing's slowing down dramatically. Well, yeah, it's because all these people did this overwhelming consumer demand that was false. So now this overwhelming consumer demand of inventory, which is real, I mean, that's not false, that's a real thing, that's flooding the markets. Once that stuff gets distributed out, and the only way to really distribute that stuff is to drop the price as much as you can in order to get the people to go out there and buy it because they didn't really want it to begin with. Manufacturers aren't getting the orders. Once this stuff is distributed out and moved out to the people, there's no new inventory coming in. And that is really where people should be concerned, because the real shortages have yet to come. We are going to find that after these distributors have moved all that inventory out, we're going to find that there is nothing left to bring through. And all those companies are going to start going out of business. You're going to see this. The real damage has yet to come. It's coming. And people are not going to be prepared for it. Right now, everybody was just so convinced. They were so convinced that inflation was going to kill everybody. Hyperinflation. Even Michael Burry was saying hyperinflation, and I don't know if he was saying hyperinflation because I really don't listen, but I know that they were saying that inflation is going to destroy the world. And I was the one who was saying, nope, just give it some time. You're going to find this inflation is going to move the other way. I was like one of the few people who was actually saying it. And I didn't have to look at the banking system or anything else. I was just looking at what was happening throughout the retailers, throughout the distribution networks. And I tried explaining it to people. I was like, no, don't you see it? This is panic buying. This is over ordering. This is allocated fear buying that's happening. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. And so this overwhelming consumer demand, I said it back then, is not real. It's not. And we are now going to suffer the consequences from this panic buying, this over ordering. We are going to suffer the consequences from it because the manufacturers don't have the same amount of orders coming in that they once did. I mean, you think about it. This panic buying, this false demand, when a manufacturer sees it and they don't realize that that's fake, they go, holy man, we need to ramp up production, start taking out, debt in order to expand our facility, to hire more people, to, do the things that we need to do in order to fulfill these orders. But they weren't real. So all that effort to try and push out more product is going to actually damage them. It's going to force them into layoffs and shutdowns and selling off of whatever it is that they can in order to keep making their payments, because they had taken out more debt to expand their production. This is going to be very damaging to the economy. I mean, I can't even begin to think like how hard of an impact this is really going to have, because you think about it, like, if the manufacturers are not profitable now during this time, how is it they're going to stay in business? They're not. They're going to fail. And I would imagine soon you're going to see that be the case. That we are going to find, like, once this inventory has dissipated and moved throughout the economy, that the new inventory just won't be available. Right then is where you're going to find, like, the entrepreneurs of the world are really going to have probably their best opportunity that they had ever seen. Like, entrepreneurship at the bottom of a crisis like that is going to be probably one of the best positions to ever be in if you can make it, because there's not going to be a whole lot of competition out there, as everybody is failing due to their overexpansion of their companies to produce this stuff that wasn't even truly wanted. The real shortages are yet to come. Uneducated economist, you guys let me know.